Phew. A cup of tea?
Don't mind if I do. Don't you think this is crazy?
Yeah, it never occurred to me that I'd be here one day.
Same. How did we get here?
Takes me back. Remember when we met in grade 9 and it took me 5 minutes to get your name?
Well, that's how pretty much all first encounters with me go. I still can't say your last name, though.
Had to think how different our backgrounds are.
But there are some things we have in common. We did try everything. Science, sports, robotics, music, the list goes on.
Yeah, STEM was like the first domino.
You see, the key to surviving in an ever-changing world isn't as solid as it may seem. It takes a series of experiences that define who you are in order to make sure that you are ready to accomplish the seemingly impossible.
So, through the humble experiences of 2 teenagers, we have compiled a how-to guide for you to do the impossible.
Step 1, don't be afraid of a challenge.
Let's take a chapter straight from our books. Once upon a time, there were 2 freshmen, uncooked by the stress of school.
Walking down the hallway to the teacher's office after class. But what makes it worse is that the teachers were blissfully eating their lunch, unaware that they're about to be interrupted by yet another STEM expedition.
Nerve-wracking, right? Well, that was us. You see, as much as we might look confident here delivering this speech, a situation like that is enough to make us internally cringe. Fortunately, we were not in any kind of trouble. As a matter of fact, we were walking down there of our own free will to start a STEM club.
Ellie first introduced the idea of a STEM banquet while we were at the athletic banquet. To me, it was a weird idea because STEM isn't something like sports that should be praised. It just wasn't conventional, but that's why it was such a good idea. But in order for us to even start a club, we had to go to a teacher and get supervision. For 2 students who had just moved to Oakville, it meant going to a new teacher at a new school to start a new club. Obviously, it was a lot of new things for us.
It was a ton of responsibilities and an extra large serving of long-term commitments. But just because it was a monster of a challenge didn't mean it was going to stop us. STEM was something we were both very passionate about.
So, we took those steps towards the door,
Raised our hand to knock.
and 3 years later, STEM Club is still running. The worst thing you can do is think about the magnitude of what's to be accomplished. For us, this door will forever lead to a daunting office, but it's no longer in the way of us achieving what we want to do.
Step 2, don't be scared to fail.
This is a picture of us presenting our projects at the science fair.
And this is a more accurate representation of how we actually felt on Judgment Day.
This may also look familiar to most of you.
But at the end of it, it all kind of looks like this.
Don't be scared to fail. It may seem scary right now, but think about it. Later, when you've accomplished the thing you want to do, you can tell others how scary it once was to you.
You see, during our science fair projects, the fear of failure constantly perched on our shoulders.
Originally, for my science fair project, I wanted to create something that allowed people to survive in space like they do in sci-fi movies. Actually, that sounded like a really good idea, but then when I sat down and thought about it, I realized I had to teach myself material science, nuclear physics, and microbiology. That was going to be really, really tough. So I took it a step at a time. I watched YouTube videos, I asked for help on the most basic of concepts, until eventually I'd be ready to solve the big problem.
While Arielle was working on her spacesuit, I set out to create an intelligent assistant that could be integrated into the average household. From the electrical wirings to the manufacturing process, I've applied what I learned from the robotics team and taught myself the rest. It was countless hours spent on Google, and even more from physically creating it.
And in the process, we failed, like a lot.
We have failed so many times, made so many prototypes, tried and tried again. And I can tell you from my experience that failure doesn't have to be your enemy. It can be your friend, and it can be your teacher. Don't let fears get in the way. Don't let it stop you from doing what you're capable of.
You only have a set number of fails, so you might as well get them out of the way now.
Sometimes the only thing stopping you is yourself. Step 3, be resourceful. After you've conquered your fear of failure and other obstacles, you may come face to face with the obstacle of resources.
You see, working on science fair projects that are more complex than what we were learning in class came with very steep learning curves. You can't exactly ask someone about piezoelectricity.
Or ask someone about the quantum mechanics behind semiconductors.
So we learned to be resourceful. Going to the International Science Fair for 2 years, I noticed a common thread. Many people had professors and mentors that helped them work on very specific and complex projects, like graphene reinforced by UV rubber. I, on the other hand, had the inspiration I got from media and my room, my high school lab, and whatever I could buy for under $100.
I had a similar issue here. I had what was available to me at home and at school. But working on an engineering project did not come for free. See, a simple motor could cost $20 easily. So if I needed 3, that goes $60.
But you can't let those things get in the way of what you need to do. So luckily, we live in an area where there are a lot of great universities in Canada. And so after some prompting from my science teacher, I reached out. And the responses were quite encouraging after spamming dozens of professors and grad students' emails. Soon enough, I had professional help to guide me through my experiments at home.
On top of it, there is Google, the online research co-op. There are so many opportunities out there for us. Sometimes we get so blinded by what we don't have that we ignore the possibilities of what we do have.
Like university labs, or that quirky teacher who knows more than you think.
Step 4, get a community.
Remember that STEM club that Ellie and I talked about in step 1? Well, by grade 10, STEM was mainly a 2-person show. Ellie and I ran all the events, put on all the announcements, and planned all the meetings. I looked around me at clubs in our school that were also very successful. And a lot of them had executives that met beforehand to discuss issues and plan events, like a council.
And thus, a year later, the Science Council was born. But not gonna lie, that first year was, well, pretty rough.
Yeah, we faced issues on the executive level, the emotional level, the personal level.
The list goes on. Basically, starting a Science Council was, well, harder than we thought.
But now we're a solid group of individuals working together like pistons in a well-oiled engine.
Your community can be your base. You see, the moral of the story is that you basically don't have to do everything alone. If you ever feel like you can't change the world because you're one person, reach out and get your community to work with you. Step 5, don't stop. Oh, some conditions may apply.
So now that you know most of the steps to accomplishing the impossible, the next logical thing to do, as Buzz Lightyear once said, is infinity. Unlock your potential and keep your options open.
Keep doing what you're passionate about. If Einstein stopped his publishings at the photoelectric effect, we would never have gotten the famous E=mc².
Something people keep asking us is what we're going to do next year, as we're graduating high school this year. Well, next year is going to be full of surprises, and who knows what we're going to do in the next 10 years. But what we do know is that we have our own passions that we're not going to stop pursuing.
Whether that being university labs, studying abroad, or maybe even a new hobby.
Don't stop doing what makes you stay up till past midnight, dead tired, but allows you to sleep with the knowledge that you accomplished something great.
At the end of the day, keep doing what you're passionate about. Don't stop. But at the same time, we're also not encouraging you to not listen to someone when they tell you something is impossible. Instead, we are encouraging you to listen to their words, take their opinion into consideration, but make your own decisions.
In the end, the key to the impossible isn't a complex algorithm. It's a series of experiences that allows you to make sure that you can do the impossible. So, step 1, don't be afraid of challenge. Step 2, don't be scared to fail. Step 3, utilize your resources. Step 4, get a community. And step 5, don't stop. Some conditions apply.
And at the end of it, you would have done the impossible. Ready?
Ready?
Phew, that was quite the mouthful.
Yeah, I hope that they're all down. See?
Oh, thank you.